Okay, so this video, I've done a previous video in regards to making some throwing sticks. I know it's kind of, I don't know, long, maybe boorish, if you will. But it's one of the main first things that you should do if you find yourself lost in the woods or out in the wilderness, is grab a stick. One of the things that you may want to do is, again, get a big stick. That keeps the big critters away. And you might need a shorter stick so that you can harvest food when you need it. This is a book, and I have a few. I have a library. I've always had libraries. That's one beautiful thing about growing up the way I grew up, was I was always surrounded by books. And this one is Boomerang by Benjamin Rue and Eric Darnell. They talk about boomerangs. They talk about where they come from, how they originated, and then they also talk about how to make them. Right? I personally, I grew up knowing about boomerangs, wanting to know how to make a boomerang, but it was not something attainable. And to be honest, I don't think it is something attainable in the short term. In the long term, sure. However, in my last video adjacent to this one, we made some throwing sticks, because that's all a boomerang is a throwing stick. That the fascination with boomerangs is it's supposed to come back to you if you miss. Now, that's not what hunting's about. You don't miss when you're hunting, right? You don't miss. You're not supposed to miss. You will miss, but you're not supposed to. So these videos are not about making a boomerang, and I'm not even about to go there. Again, this is the book. If you want to make your own, go right ahead. However, and this internet is vast, so I'm sure there's plenty of videos on how to make a boomerang and how to throw them and yada yada yada. However, I've made a couple of throwing sticks, and I've refined a few of them. Now, I'm gonna start off with this one. Again, this one here. Again, I forget what kind of wood it is, but it as a thumper, this is pretty hefty. I might just keep this by the door, to be honest. But I could throw it, and I shaped it in a way that it might be more or less aerodynamic. It's not gonna fly very fast. It's not gonna fly very long, but it's probably gonna hurt just a little bit, right? I haven't really refined it. I haven't shaped it, so to speak. I haven't stained it, but I have other plans for this. I think we'll see. Again, from my training, this is another throwing stick that I have. That, again, it's just a throwing stick, right? But I made one end heavier than the other, and that's just to give it, how do you say, so I can really put that whip on it when I throw it, right? Again, I didn't have to do all that. I didn't have to waste the caloric output to do it. And then next, we have just a plain old round stick that looks like a piece of driftwood. And again, I can throw this at anything, right? And it's liable to do some damage, right? It's not very light, not very heavy, but it's still a stick that I can throw. It's roughly my forearm's length and a hand. My forearm's length and a hand. And I can chuck this at something and maybe get some food. Now, I had some other sticks that were shaped in a particular way. Alright, I still have them, a couple of sticks. And I went on ahead and refined them a little bit. I sanded them down, and put some wax on them, polish them up, and they fly pretty well, right? And again, from a melee standpoint, hand-to-hand combat, CQB, yada yada yada, this'll work pretty good. It's got that nice curved shape that I'm used to, being a Filipino martial artist. That works pretty well. And here's the other half of it that I've refined. And again, I used black walnut husks as a dye, and they turned out pretty well. I believe it's the same wood as these two here, this one and this one, this one and this one. But again, I threw them a number of times, and they fly pretty well. To get varmints, right, to eat. So in this video, I'm kind of showing my steps to make this assortment, so to speak, right? The other assortment the other ones I kind of did in my last video. Again, like I said, it's a bit boorish, and that's okay. I don't expect it to be exciting, yada yada yada. But I kind of want to finish this out in a way with some of kind of how elaborate that one can make a throwing stick, right? And these sticks have sat in my garage in the heat, in the dryness, for a number of years. I just actually recently pulled them out and decided to do this video. I'm remiss in doing this video because it's one of the first videos I should have ever done, because it's one of the first things you should do in a primitive survival situation, is grab you a stick, a couple of them, so if you need to, you can lump an animal to for survival. Again, if you're not into that, fine, so be it. That's on you. But most people, Aboriginal people on the planet, understand the practicality of it, and they probably look at this, my little tasks as like, you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, and that's fine. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't live in those conditions. However, I'm pretty sure I can lump one of the little rabbits that be bopping around my neighborhood right now. So anyways, let's get started. Alright, so I am basically taking time to refine the throwing sticks here. I'm using my shaving tool. Back in the day, a shaving tool was a sidewalk or the asphalt or the concrete, sandstone. Okay, so this is supposed to be a primitive technology channel. This is what I have. I live in a upscale apartment complex, and so therefore I can't really go quite feral as much as I'd like to show you how it's done. But a lot of this goes back to my childhood and trying to make stuff, and all we had was sticks and stones, literally, and the concrete. So anyways, one of the throwing sticks that I showed in my last video, adjacent to this one, was this one. I'm using this tool here to refine it so it'll fly better. The idea is to make sure that one side is flat as possible. I am going to take some sandpaper to it, and then the other side is kind of domed, so it's more like a airplane foil, so it flies longer, right? I don't expect this to come back to me. I'm not trying to make a boomerang. That's a whole nother process that at this stage, I don't think I'm up to the challenge. I'm not up to it right now, just because I'm not in that space, unfortunately. So this is the other half of the same stick, because it's got a natural curve to it that I'm going to use my shaving tool to basically do the same thing with. and just refine it. I mean, as it is, it flies. As it is, as I was trying to explain in my last video, if I needed something like this to take down a rabbit or something like that, it would be just fine as it is. I mean, I don't have to do this. I don't have to do this. All right. But I'm gonna, for the sake of this video, try to refine this down as much as I can. But you don't have to do this. This is the sexy part of it. This is when your belly is full. When you're starving, you start off with something like that. Okay? Or you're eating carrion. I'm being honest. That's just how it works, right? When you're starving, you're going to start out with something like this. When you're done and you're sitting around the fire and your belly's full, sorry about the car. When you're done, you're sitting with your belly full, you see you have time and the energy now to refine your weaponry. Okay? I do a lot of plant videos in here. I don't do a lot of the sexy stuff, right? Again, y'all don't pay me enough to do the real sexy stuff. I'm just being honest. So if any of this inspires you or you find it compelling, $1 in at the Cash App or the PayPal is perfectly irrelevant. But I do what I can when I can, and I'm just in a notion to do this today, and that's what I'm gonna do. Yes, I am a bit long-winded, and that's okay. So you're only shooting this with my phone, so I do need both my hands. And again, I'm just shaving this down. I want to keep one side real flat and smooth, and then the other side a bit domed, as you can see by the profile. That's all I'm doing. Alright, so I'm gonna start sandpapering this one, because it's refined and enough to where I believe it'll work well enough, at least for said intents and purposes. But now I gotta work on this one, and as I'm looking at the profile and I'm looking at the grain, for this one here, I think I'm gonna need to pull out the blade, and I want a deeper D profile, if that makes sense, right? So I wanna take out this grain here. So I got my blade here and my hammer, and I'm gonna have to chisel that out a little bit, just get rid of that chunk there, because it'll make things easier in the long run. So what you're seeing here is I'm using the blade to kind of isolate this grain, and it went off a bit, and that's okay because I can bring it back on track by moving the blade over and hitting it right about there. I got my mallet. Again, these are just tools. This could be a wooden mallet, whatever. And then just move it down here because I want to remove it there, and then I can start working. So I got this shaved down a bit, but in relation to this one, which has more of a flat plane, this one does not. And again, similar to flint knapping, you see this tip here, this like a triangular, there's this pinnacle. I want to get rid of that, and it's going all the way down. And if I can get rid of that, then it will make it a little bit flatter, and it will make it more flat and less rasping that I have to do. So that's what I'm gonna do. Alright, so I'm at the sandpapering stage. Excuse me, yeah, sawdust. And I'm gonna kind of leave it as it is. I'm actually gonna stain these with some black walnut and put a little wax to them and burnish them with a rock. Burnishing means like laying down the fibers, making it harder, giving it some sheen, making it look nice. Again, the caloric output that it takes to make these try to look good sometimes isn't worth it. As long as it works, it works. But again, you pick up a stick, you lump your first animal for food, and now you have the caloric intake to do the caloric output to make and refine your weapon better. All right. And again, this is not a boomerang video per se, but it is a throwing stick video, part due. Just, just to do it, right? And it's something I haven't done in a while. And I've never made a video for it. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some black walnut stain on these. And then polish them up with a little bit of beeswax, and then burnish them with a rock. And again, I could do all kinds of designs and blah 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 blah. I'm not going to do all that. I'd like to keep it real simple and plain, and as long as they're functional, that's what matters to me. So and again, the tool part of primitive technology is always sexy. And yes, I notice the views that I get on certain projects. There's many things to it, right? There's many things that goes into surviving versus thriving, and everybody wants to go out and make a spear and take down the big buffalo, antelope, tatanka, whatever. But nobody really wants to know or go through the actual work that it takes to get to that skill level. And there's a lot of soft skills involved. There's a lot of other skills that are not so, again, sexy. So that titillates the fascination. So. I will entertain more videos like that because I still have a lot of skill sets that I want to demonstrate on my channel here. But, as it goes, I just show what I'm feeling, or I do what I'm feeling. Now if you want to dictate some of that, again, put a couple of dollars in the bucket, and then we can have a chat about that. But in the meantime, this is what we're working with, and let's see if I can stain these up and then give them a fly. So on my second throwing stick, you can see how the dye is bringing out some of the natural colors. Or patterns, I should say. Now, I didn't completely, there's a cadmium layer, and then there's the outer bark that I mostly rasped off. But then there's still the cadmium layer, the inner bark layer, and then there's the actual wood layer. And by leaving some of the inner bark on there, it just gives it a really nice, pretty pattern. And this is all black walnut husks. So you going out and buying and spending money on wood stain, that's on you. But a lot of these things nature provides is all I gotta say. Is really what my point is. If you have a pesky black walnut tree that you keep tripping and slipping over the black walnuts every year, now you know what to do with them. And I don't have no hair, let alone light colored hair. But as you can see, my fingers is I'm not wearing gloves right now. I just don't feel like putting them on. But what I would be really interested in doing is seeing how this dyes. I want to see how this dyes hair. And again, I don't have very much hair, and my hair is black. I haven't gone completely gray, but just natural hair, blonde, light brunette, auburn. I want to see what this does because it's a natural hair dye. And I want to know how long it works, how well it works, how richly it works, etc., etc. But I digress. Anyways, this is kind of what the second throwing stick is looking like. I will be working on the third one. Like I said, I'm going to take my time with that one. But, yeah. So it's turning out all right. It just
took a while to get to this point of actually talking about throwing sticks. My bad.